Good morning. I'm Greg Longini, Secretary to the Chicago Transit Board. On October 6th, 2021, this Office of the Secretary issued a notice of change format for all board, committee, and board meetings of the Chicago Transit Board of October 13th, scheduled for October 13th, 2021, due to the COVID-19 pandemic. On September 19th, 2020, I'm Greg Longini, Secretary to the Chicago Transit for a period of 30 days, a statewide disaster declaration as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pursuant to Section 7E of the Open Meetings Act, the head of the Chicago Transit Authority has determined that it is not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person meeting in light of the ongoing disaster. This means that as permitted by this section of the Open Meetings Act, there will not be any in-person public meetings. And the Chicago Transit Authority public meetings on October 13th, 2021 will take place only virtually. Because the governor's disaster proclamation remains in effect in the state of Illinois, the meetings October 13th, 2021 are being held electronically. With that, Chairman Silva, we may begin the meeting of the Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee.
Good morning. I would like to call to order the October 13, 2021 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Would the Secretary call the roll?
Yes, Director Alvarez will not be here today. Director Jakes.
Here.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Irvine.
Here.
Director Barkley.
Here.
Chairman Silva.
Here.
We have a quorum of the committee with 5 members present, sir.
Our first order of business is the approval of the committee minutes of September 15, 2021. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Miller. Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
Director Barkley.
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
The motion to approve the minutes of September passes with 5 yes votes, sir. We move to 3.
Our next order of business is the finance report. Jeremy Fine, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Jeremy Fine, your Chief Financial Officer, and I'll be covering the financial report for the month of August as well as year-to-date numbers. With regard to our revenues for August, we see a similar trend as what we've seen over the past several months, where we see fare and pass totals coming in pretty close to budget, but slightly down. On an amended budget basis, we're down about $900,000 and a little under $1.5 million on an original budget basis. With regard to our reduced fare subsidy, that continues to come in as expected. However, that has been haircut 50% off of our prior year receipts. With regard to non-fare box totals, those come in slightly better than expected, by about $700,000 on the amended budget basis and by about $200,000 on the original budget basis. That leaves us for the month of August down slightly, but essentially flat to budget by about $200,000 on an amended budget basis and by about $1.5 million on an original budget basis. With regard to our year-to-date numbers on the next page, we see similar trends where fare and pass totals coming in slightly negative on an amended budget basis, but positive on an original budget basis by about $16 million. Again, reduced fare subsidy, while cut, is coming in as expected. Non-fare box totals coming in slightly negative on an amended budget basis by about $2 million and down about $13 million on an original budget basis. That leaves us for the year to date on our revenue projections, essentially flat, but slightly up or down depending on which basis you're talking about. For example, on the amended budget, we're down by about $5 million and we're positive by about $3 million on the original budget basis. So our projections are much more in line with what we're actually receiving here in 2021, which was a much different story than what we saw last year. With regard to our expenses, we continue to keep good controls on our expenses where we see labor coming in positive by about $1.5 million. Material is essentially flat, but slightly down by about $200,000. Fuel and power continue to be strong performers for us. Injuries and damages and security services essentially flat or slightly positive. And then other expenses continue to be positive by about $3.5 million on the amended budget basis and by about $2.5 million on the original budget. That leaves us for the month positive by about $6.6 million on the amended budget and a little under $6 million on the original budget. If you couple this with our revenues, that leaves us for the month of August positive by about $6.4 million on the amended budget and positive by about $4.6 million on the original budget. With regard to our year-to-date numbers, dropping to the bottom line here on expenses, we've accrued about $34 million of positive variance on our expenses per the amended budget and about $44 million of positive variance on the original budget. Again, when you couple this with our returns on revenues, we see positive variance on the amended budget by about $29 million and by about $47 million versus the original budget. On the next page, we talk about our public funding and how that continues to come in very positive as well. We see here for the various lines where we have sales tax coming in positive by about $13 or $14 million based on the different budgets. PTF coming in about $7 to $9 million positive. Real estate transfer tax coming in slightly positive on an amended budget basis. PTF on RET and ICE funding coming in positive, which leaves us for the month positive by about $22 million on an amended budget basis and positive by about $24.5 million on an original budget basis. This follows the form of what we've seen year to date. And again, dropping to the bottom line here, we see about $129 million of positive variance on the amended budget and about $144 million of positive variance on the original budget. Again, this is a good storyline for the next page where we talk about the draws of federal relief funding. You may notice that this page has changed from prior iterations. We've now added in not just the CARES funds, which we've been talking about, but also the second tranche of funding that we've received called CRISA, and then the third tranche of funding that we're finalizing discussions with RTA regarding the allocation thereof, which is the ARP funding. So the CARES funding, as we've talked about over the last year or so, we've been drawing that down based on our needs, based on how public funding is coming in, as well as our system-generated revenues and expenses. And we've drawn down a little over 91% of that total allocation of $817 million. So we have about $70 million remaining to draw down through the rest of the year, as well as CRISA funding that's available for any balance left over for 2021. But we expect to carry over CRISA funding into 2022, as well as ARP funding that will be available for any needs in 2022 as well, as we talk about that budget next month. With regard to the three commodities that we purchased, fuel, power, and natural gas, we did successfully conclude the RFP process for fuel. Due to recent increases in fuel prices, we have set steady on not purchasing any additional fuel at this time for 2023, 4, and 5. We continue to monitor the market on a daily basis to assess opportunistic buying opportunities as they avail themselves. But there's been a lot of turmoil in that market recently, further exacerbated by OPEC's decision not to pump more gas for the month. But we'll continue to assess that as those decisions may change here in the near future. Power and natural gas, we remain locked in for the foreseeable future, but we'll obviously look for continued opportunistic buying opportunities there as well. That concludes my prepared remarks, but I'm glad to answer any questions with regard to the August numbers or year-to-date numbers.
So what we have in cash right now, will take us all next year through?
Yes, so the federal funding has been a critical lifeline for us and transit agencies across the country. The CARES funds that we have been allocated, as well as the CRISA funds, that we've been allocated will carry us through the remaining portion of 2021 and into 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman, before we proceed to the other questions, let me state for the record, which I forgot, that President Dorval Carter and General Counsel Karen Simons are also participating in this meeting, and they are also physically located in our headquarters building on Lake Street. Director Barkley, do you have any questions for Jeremy?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Director Irvine?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
Questions?
Okay, Chairman Silva, no further questions. We may move on to number 4.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of cyber security insurance coverage policy year November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022. Steve Wood. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Steve Wood with the CTA Law Department. We are coming before the board on the renewal of our cyber insurance policy. This is an annual policy that we've had now for 3 years, and it is renewed annually with the term of this policy being November 1, 2021 to October 31, 2022. Our insurance broker, Alliant Mesereau, and our DBE Paradigm marketed this new coverage to the insurance market. But due to unprecedented upheavals in this cyber insurance security market, only one insurance company bid for our policy, and that was our incumbent insurer, Beasley. We recommend proceeding with the incumbent insurer, but the policy will have a number of important changes. The policy provides a coverage limit of $2 million down from $5 million, and our deductible is increasing from $250,000 to $1 million. The proposed insurance premium, including taxes, is approximately $108,754, which is an increase of approximately 23.5% from last year's premium. Although very different from the expiring policy, this insurance policy continues to provide a number of protections for the CTA related to cyber breaches or intrusions of the CTA's computers and network. It will cover damages for the CTA resulting from the release of confidential personal information, expenses incurred in notifying affected employees or customers of such a breach, attorney's defense costs in any related litigation or regulatory matter. And in addition, and perhaps most importantly, it provides coverage for hiring forensic experts and computer consultants to determine the severity and root cause of any intrusion. Again, we recommend proceeding with the incumbent insurer, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Have we worked with them before?
Yes, they are the insurance carrier that has been on all 3 of our policies. They've been very responsive and very helpful whenever we've needed to have interactions with them.
So you're comfortable with this?
Very much so, yes.
Thank you.
Chairman Barkley, any questions? Or Director Barkley?
Yes, Steve, where do you see this going in the future? It seems like a huge jump. I know everybody's dealing with it, but how do we assess this going forward?
That might be a question more for our IT folks who are on the line, but my understanding is that the federal government is now becoming very heavily involved in cybersecurity, in hardening our systems to external attack. And the further down the road we get with protecting our systems and having solid cybersecurity on our systems, the fewer intrusions, the fewer insurance claims. And I think the insurance industry then will come back around and start offering better coverages and better prices.
Is there anything that we can be doing now, our IT people can be doing right now to help?
Yes, this is Carolyn Gallagher, Chief of Strategy, Data and Technology. Chairman Barkley, we have a very comprehensive program in place for cybersecurity that covers risk management as well as many different areas on the technical side. And we also have many protections in place. We continually improve that program, consult with our peer transit agencies, both nationally as well as our peers here in Chicago, to make sure that we are abreast of all the requirements, changes, and issues that are taking place. So we are very on top of the cybersecurity protections and what is happening, in that area.
Thank you.
Thank you. Director Irvine, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
All right, Chairman Silva, we're finished with questions for agenda item number 4.
Our next order of business is the,
Chairman, we need to get this on the omnibus.
since there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval? I never
So
missed
moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine and seconded by Director Miller. Chairman, now we may proceed to agenda item number 5.
Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance authorizing the purchase of blanket railroad protective liability insurance for policy year November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022. Steve.
Thank you, Chairman. We are coming before the board for approval of our blanket railroad protective insurance policy. This is an annual policy that the CTA has had in place now for 12 years. And this ordinance is for the renewal term of November 1, 2021 to October 31, 2022. This blanket policy covers all CTA contractors and certain non-contractors who perform work within 50 feet of any CTA railroad right-of-way. The CTA enrolls these businesses in our blanket program and then prorates the cost of the insurance across the construction projects that we have so that the CTA is not out of pocket for the cost of this insurance. Because the CTA purchases this policy with all of our various construction projects at issue, we are able to use our bargaining power in the marketplace to secure a much lower rate than individual contractors, individual DBEs, or other non-contractors could secure. So we obtain a cost of about half of what the normal market rate would be. Was there a question? I'm sorry. No?
We've been very successful with this program, right?
We absolutely have. The renewal of this policy through the marketing of Mesero and our DBE is with our incumbent, Aspen Specialty Insurance. The rates are going up a penny per $100 of construction costs, which is how they price these policies. So it's going from 26 cents per $100 to 27 cents per $100. And Aspen has providing us with very good customer service and responsiveness. So we are recommending this renewal with Aspen for the upcoming term.
Yeah, let's keep it up. Good job.
Steve, are you finished or you still have?
I'm finished.
Steve is finished as well?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And you're finished, Chairman Silver. So Director Barkley, do you have any questions for Steve?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Okay, there's no further questions, Chairman Silver.
Is there no further question? May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Irvine and Miller. So, sir, we can move to the contracts now. Let's start with A1.
Our next order of business is contract number A1, a snow removal contract.
Any questions, Chairman Silva?
Are we changing the supplier of this contract, Eileen?
No, this is the same supplier that we're currently using. We've been very happy with them over the years, and their pricing remained essentially flat. And as you'll see, they do have a high DBE commitment. They've committed to 34.44%.
Very good. Thank you. No, I don't have any questions.
Director Barkley?
No questions.
Director Irvine?
No questions.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
All right, then we're finished with A1. So we can move to contract B as in boy 1, sir.
Our next order of business is contract number B1, a construction management contract. I don't have a question.
All right, Director Barclay,
No question.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Jakes.
No questions?
Chairman Silva, I just need about 1 minute here to do something with the public comment person. 1 minute, sir. All right. We're finished with one. So let's move to G as in giraffe one, sir.
Our next order of business is contract number G1, an Oracle contract change order. I don't have any questions at this moment.
All right, Director Barclay,
No question.
Director Irvine,
No questions.
Director Miller,
No questions.
Director Jakes.
No questions?
Excuse me 1 second again, please. All right, sorry. Done with that. Then we can move on to 6A, sir.
Since there are no further questions on the contract, may I have leave to place the 3 contracts on the omnibus?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Irvine, seconded by Miller. Sir, we can now move to 6B.
Since there is no further business to come before the committee, may I have a motion to approve the omnibus and recommend the omnibus for board approval?
So moved.
Second.
All right, take a vote on the omnibus. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Barclay,
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus passes with 5 yes votes, sir. So we can move on to the final agenda, item number 7, I think.
And finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Let's take a vote on the motion to adjourn. Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Director Barclay,
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes. We are adjourned, and then the board meeting will begin in about 10 minutes, since it's about 10 to 10 right now. We'll see you all then. Thank you.
1.
Good morning again. This is Greg Longini, and we're about to start the regular board meeting of the Chicago Transit Authority. Chairman Barkley, you may begin.
I would like to call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for October 13, 2021. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Here.
Director Miller,
Here.
Director Irvine,
Here.
Chairman Barkley.
Here.
Director Alvarez will not be here today, so let the record show that we have a quorum with 5 members of the board present, and so President Carter and General Counsel Simons are also in attendance of this meeting.
Our first order of business is public comment.
Yes, sir. We have 3 public comment speakers today. The first one will be Ms. Madonna Parker. And please address the board. And if you are reading something, Ms. Parker, please speak slowly so the sign language interpreters can get it all down. And please address the board. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak this morning. I was calling in because I had some concerns about normally in transportation. I take the J14 every morning downtown, but a couple times, like last Thursday, I guess when they were preparing or rerouting downtown for the race or whatever, I stood outside in the rain for 30 minutes waiting on a bus. The concern that I have with that is that I know that your buses state that everyone should actually wear a mask when getting on the bus. However, the bus was so late, and it was a bus a few minutes behind. Both buses were packed. I'm sitting next to a person who gets on the bus who doesn't have a mask on. One standing above us coughing and talking on the phone doesn't have a mask on. Now, I'm not quite sure what happened. And I'm so passionate about this because I've lost people due to this virus. I had a very dear friend who was on a ventilator for 2 months that we thought we were going to lose because of this virus. I know that you can't police everybody, but the one lady that I look for every morning that I intentionally ride with, before they get on the bus, she said, "Don't forget to put your mask on." And she's very kind about it. And nobody has ever given her a problem about that. They'll put their mask on and go sit down. But it makes you uncomfortable, and for people to be on the bus packed like that with nothing on their face. You don't know if they're vaccinated or what the situation is, but very touchy situation for me because I know the severity of it, because I've lost and I've known people that are almost lost because of this whole pandemic thing. Now, I don't know what we can do to try to rectify this or fix this or do better in terms of scheduling when you have reroutes so the buses are not like this to where we're not packed like sardines on the bus. I don't know what can be done, but something has to change because we shouldn't have to be on the bus all on top of each other when we still are in a state of uncertainty with this virus out here.
Thank you, Ms. Parker. I appreciate your comments, and I'll ask President Carter to assign that to appropriate staff to find we can do a little bit better.
So tell me, what can we do as a community to try to help this situation? Because some people, we rely strictly on public transportation. We don't have any other means of getting downtown to go to work without that. I mean, what else can we do as a community to work with you as a whole? Because it's a shared responsibility as I see it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can speak to this, I recognize the challenges that our customers have with compliance with mask wearing, and even though our surveys and analysis have shown that a substantial number of our customers do comply, we recognize that just like in society, there are people who basically, for whatever reason, refuse to or will not wear a mask. We obviously want to continue to work with our customers to figure out ways that we can improve or increase compliance. And I'm happy to have a staff person sit down and speak directly with her about what we can do or what we could ultimately try to determine even together to work on this. As you know, we pass out free passes. Masks. We pass out free masks. We have signage. We have announcements. We do all sorts of things to try to encourage people to do this, but it is a constant struggle. And we'll continue to come up with and look for any ways that we can to improve on our overall compliance.
So let me ask you a question, young man. As an example, one day we were on the bus. You had a CTA driver that got on the bus that took his mask off, standing in the front near us because they decided to eat McDonald's and drink their drink. And I thought that was inappropriate because you had a thing saying you should, as a CTA employee, be setting a better example, but to get on to eat your breakfast in the morning and expose yourself to us, I don't know what your situation is. And everybody's suspect for me because of what I've experienced in my life with this whole thing. So I don't know what's going on with him. And I just thought it was wrong for him to do that because they need to set an example for us as well.
So all CTA employees are required to wear their masks when they're in public. If an employee is not wearing their mask, if you report that information to us, as possible, give us its badge number. If not, give us the time and location. We do follow up and we will discipline an employee for not wearing their mask. They're required to wear them. They're constantly informed of their requirement to wear them, and we do discipline them if they do not.
Thank you, President Carter. Ms. Parker, we need to wrap this up. We have more speakers today. But we want to talk with you because you raised some very, very serious issues, and I want to thank you for coming before the board. Chairman Barkley, our next speaker is David Dalka. David, I did receive your comments last night. They have been distributed to the entire board. So I know you have a lot of issues, so try to please get to the point within 3 or 4 minutes, and the board is yours, sir. Please address us.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you to the members of their board for their public service and to make Chicago and the CTA a better place. I appreciate your service. I'm calling today to inform about declining safety and service around the Blue Line Jefferson Park Station, especially around the Milwaukee Avenue side. When you guys renovated this, there's still a missing stop sign leaving the property. And the crosswalks have not been painted on the sidewalks across the entire block when the new cement was poured last year. I've made numerous calls about this. Nothing's been done. The crosswalk across Milwaukee Avenue needs to be repainted, and better signage is needed for pedestrian safety. There is a rat's nest on the property, the only rat's nest anywhere in this area. Please do something to stop this before that spreads and ruins an entire clean, wonderful neighborhood. Garbage cans near the rats are often overflowing. This is probably what's causing it. There are now, in the past month or two, aggressive panhandlers loitering on the benches, urinating on the property, sleeping there all night. Their numbers are getting larger, and it's a problem. The Dunkin' Donuts manager, right across from the entrance on Milwaukee, says she sees troublemakers that likely did not leave the 81 and 91 buses. I have seen evidence that backs that up, as I've seen human feces on the 81 bus more than once this year. That is completely unacceptable under any circumstance, but it's also a sign that homeless people are getting on the bus for free and riding it all night or whatever they're doing. In terms of service issues, the rush hour Blue Line trains, I've been waiting 12 to 15 minutes for trains during rush hour. I'm talking 7:30, 8 a.m. on a weekday morning instead of the traditional 3 to 5 minutes during rush hour. I've talked with the Blue Line manager about this 2 months ago. Nothing has changed. And to support Ms. Parker's thing, that there are problems with buses as well. On October 6th at 7:50 a.m., I arrived downtown from Jefferson Park with a need to arrive at a conference I was attending at Navy Pier, and at Lake and State and Lake at 7:50 a.m. on a Wednesday morning, there was a 27-minute wait for a 29 bus, a bus that normally during rush hour operates every 5-6 minutes tops. There is clearly a problem with bus spacing, as Ms. Parker notes. I support her coming here today to talk about that. So a trip that should have took me about an hour ended up taking an hour and 45 minutes. You know, I missed the breakfast in the morning. Networking is here. In addition, smoking on trains and buses remains a problem. I would love to see the CTA board encourage the city council to raise the fine for this atrocity and assault on people to, you know, $500 or more, so that there was some actual teeth in the law that created that there. You know, I'm happy to discuss any of these issues further or in person, but there's a declining safety issue at the Jefferson Park Station. There are many bus lines that come there together from many neighborhoods, some where there's a high homeless rate, some where there's lots of violence, such as the number 91. Yesterday on the Metro platform, there was a fight that the police were called. So I'm just saying that this whole, I've never seen a security guard at the station, and the safety of it is becoming to the point where nobody wants to enter it or ride.
David, thank you. We need to wrap this up.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Chairman Barkley, would you like to say anything?
I just would like to say I appreciate your comments, and you know, we always appreciate, you know, our citizens telling us where we can have some improvement, and so we certainly appreciate you coming in this morning and sharing your thoughts with us. And I'll ask President Carter to assign the appropriate staff person to look into some of these matters, so we can improve the quality of services for all citizens of Chicago.
I appreciate that, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. I'm sure we'll be in touch. Do we have the third speaker, Mr. Lafarge? Is he connected with us yet?
Yes, sir, I am.
Oh, you are here, sir. Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
And I just got your notice that you sent me a few minutes ago, sir, and I will forward it to all of our board members. And so please feel free to address the board right now, sir.
All right. Well, good morning, Mr. Chairman Barkley and President Carter and Board of Directors. Thank you for allowing me to speak today about the litter, trash, and filth on the East Side Parkway of CTA's new $280 million Red Line Terminal. I am Michael Lafargue. I'm an active member of this area that we finally call the University Village 95. I am very active in the community. I'm the past president of the West Chesterfield Community Association, just east of the terminal, past president of the Chicago Parks Consortium, past president of the Red Line Extension Coalition, founding member of the University Village 95 in support of Chicago State University, and I am a commercial real estate broker, facility manager, and appraiser. Chicago has a huge litter problem, and that's not your fault, and that's not my fault, but it occurs in many of our communities, and CTA, the 95th Street Terminal, is a victim of that, especially on the East Side Parkway area, or planter area that some call it. Since 2019, the East Parkway planter has become a filthy, trashy, really disease-ridden, unclean mess. If you look at the area now, there are chicken bones, rib bones, and just it's horrible. The community's thought is that if you build it, you should clean it. However, CTA cannot clean the parkway. CTA has shared with me that it is IDOT's responsibility, and CTA's union rules do not permit cleaning the area. In contacting IDOT, I've asked them to plant the area in 2019, a year after the station was built, and they did. But they will not clean the station. IDOT says, call 311, call the city. So of recent, I have placed service requests, and so have members of the community. Gentlemen and ladies of the board, I have cleaned the area myself. The West Chesterfield Community Association has cleaned the area, and the Chicago Association of Realtors Diversity 77 Committee has come out and cleaned the area. As I conclude, I'd like to change the topic a little bit, but I'd like to thank you for removing the underground storage tanks and for installing the white gravel and the fencing at CTA's former 95th Street staging area. That's the area that you will be selling and developing. But however, the staging area is also becoming a trash-ridden mess as well. This is a poor way to market real estate, and in fact, I would love to be a broker on this property. The community asked for regular cleaning and maintenance of these areas, the staging area and especially the parkway area. And there are many local vendors that would be happy to be hired to clean the area. Community letters of support have been attached with my document for this meeting today, and also a 118-page document that was prepared by the community, Roseland Heights, Vernon Park, Washington Heights, and West Chesterfield, with many support organizations to give you ideas on what the community is thinking. The community needs—
Mr. Lafarge, we need to wrap up pretty soon. So
yes,
please,
sir.
Thank you.
Two more lines. What the community is looking for is good business neighbors, public and private sector that will participate in the community. So my question is, will you be a good business neighbor? Will you assist us in cutting through the multi-agency red tape to have this parkway cleaned regularly? And my final question is, who will be contacting me regarding this matter? Thank you so much for your patience.
Mr. Farage, thank you very much for coming in this morning. President Carter, I'll ask you to assign the appropriate staff person to address some of those concerns with him.
Yes, I will have Bill Mooney, my Chief of Infrastructure, follow up on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Lafarge, for addressing the board, and have a wonderful day. Chairman Barkley, that concludes the public comment section of today's meeting.
Our next order of business is the approval of the minutes. I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of September 15, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine, second by Director Miller for the minutes. Director Silva.
Yes,
Jakes. Director Jakes.
sorry.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, on the minutes. No problem. Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
The 10 minutes are approved with 5 yes votes, sir.
Our next order of business is executive session. It's my understanding, Karen, there's an executive session today.
Yes, Chairman, we will have a short executive session pursuant to Section 2, Paragraph C, Subparagraph 2 of the Open Meetings Act.
I will now entertain a motion to recess into executive session based upon council's recommendation.
And so moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller, moved by Director Irvine, second by Director Miller. The vote on executive session. Director Silva.
Yes.
Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Irvine.
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 5 yes votes to recess in executive session, and I don't expect it to take that long. We'll be back in a little while. Thank you. Hello again, it's Greg Longini. Chairman Barkley, we are ready to reconvene the board meeting, sir.
I will now entertain a motion to return to the open meeting of the October Transit Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Miller. I'll take the vote. Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
Motion to reconvene the meeting is approved with 5 yes votes, sir.
Our next order of business is executive session matters. Karen?
Thank you, Chairman. In executive session, we discussed the recommendation of the Law Department and Infrastructure for the execution of a collective bargaining agreement containing terms of a tentative agreement with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 700, which basically is the unit for our construction project managers, of which there are about 7. This is the first collective bargaining agreement, and we've agreed to wage adjustments that reflect the market. The agreement also allows for gradual tiers for the managers based on seniority, qualifications, and testing. And finally, the healthcare plan design remains the same as it is in our ATU contract for 2016 to 2019. So again, law and construction recommend that the board approve these tentative agreement terms.
Thank you, Karen. I will now entertain a motion to approve an ordinance authorizing execution of a collective bargaining agreement containing the terms of a tentative agreement with the International Brotherhood of Teamsters Local 700 Construction Managers.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Miller. Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Miller. I'll take a roll call vote. Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That contract is approved with 5 yes votes, sir.
Since there are no board matters, our next order of business is a report from the Committee of Finance, Audit and Budget. Director Silva?
The Committee on Finance, Audit and Budget met earlier this morning via Zoom video teleconference. The committee approved the September 15, 2021 committee minutes. The committee reviewed the finance report. The committee reviewed the following 2 ordinances. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of cybersecurity insurance coverage for policy year November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022. An ordinance authorizing the purchase of blanket railroad protective liability insurance for policy year November 1st, 2021 through October 31st, 2022. The committee also reviewed 3 contracts. The committee approved the 2 ordinances and all 3 contracts. The committee placed the ordinance and the 3 contracts on the omnibus and recommended board approval of the omnibus. And that concludes my report, Chairman Barkley.
Thank you, Director Silva. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Silva?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine, seconded by Director Miller. I'll take a roll call vote. Director Silva,
Yes.
Director Jakes,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Irvine,
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
Motion to approve the omnibus is approved with 5 yes votes, sir.
Our next order of business is the construction report. Bill Mooney.
Good morning, Bill Mooney, your Chief Infrastructure Officer. We'll begin where we normally do our Your New Blue Signals project. We've continued to progress, closing out the cutover at Old Mannheim since last month. We are moving towards Cumberland interlocking, which is just south of Cumberland Station. And we've continued to kind of finalize the last pieces of signal equipment that we need on the wayside and in the manufacturing plant for kind of the long-term look ahead, with which will ultimately be Rosemont and O'Hare. Next slide, please. Here is they're installing what we call the AC power racks for the Cumberland interlockings. This is 2 brand new ComEd feeds that come into a transfer switch to provide us a redundant power supply for the signal house there. Next slide, please. Those racks actually installed and wired up in the field now. Next slide. Here is some more of the wayside kind of infrastructure stuff. This is in Rosemont Yard, where they're starting to prep to be able to pull cable from the local junction boxes and cabinets back to the relay rooms and houses. Our next project is a refresh and renewed. We've had a really significant kind of amount of gain over the last couple months, and most notably really in the last 30 days. So 25 of the 35 full renewed stations are complete at this point. Since we last met, we've knocked out Western on the O'Hare, Jarvis on the red line, 87th on the red line, Francisco on the brown line, Thorndale on the red line, Garfield on the red line, 35th and Archer on the orange line, Damon on the pink line, Fullerton on the red line, and Cumberland on the O'Hare branch. And we're working at 47th Street, Southport, and LaSalle and Van Buren. And we had the first of the SBE painting contractors come on board. You'll all remember that a few months ago, we brought forward contracts for a series of SBE painting contractors to do kind of an augmented program here at 92 stations. And they've started working at 79th, 69th, 43rd, and Sheridan. And the directional signage, as I mentioned kind of last month, this is the ADA directional signage program that we've incorporated in Refresh and Renewed. We've knocked out 18 of the 29 committed stations within that program in the last month. So we move towards the pictures. So here we are at Western on the O'Hare branch. You can see kind of the upgraded painting and signage on the stairwells. This is kind of, again, one of those focal welcoming points as you enter the station. It really is a kind of a fresh look. Next slide, please. Here's the interior of the mezzanine. We've upgraded all the lighting, cleaned the ceilings. Again, kind of just as that first impression of the station, walk in. Next slide. So this is Jarvis in the main mezzanine at Jarvis. There was the ceiling had been damaged a few years ago and just been kind of plywooded over. So we actually took that down, completely repaired the ceiling, repainted the columns, the ceiling, kind of a real fresh look with the new upgraded lighting in there. Next slide. And here's the stairs. So these stairs kind of are historical stairs, and they have tile nose edging. So we actually went through, kind of repaired all the tiles, broken tiles, replaced some of the missing ones, regrouted them, and then painted the stairs kind of in the offset. Next slide, please. And here's an example of one of the ADA signages upgrades at Jarvis here. Next slide. This is 87th on the red line. So this, again, you can see kind of the impact of the upgraded lighting, not only in its coloring. One of the things we do when we upgrade the lighting too is we replace the lenses or the plastic covers that go over the lights themselves, because over time they can discolor and tint the light a little funny. So that's an important aspect of it. Next slide. And here's Damon in the pink line. As I've mentioned kind of a couple times, we try and get outside the station entrance itself, look at the footprint we create in that neighborhood and that approach. Here it's all the ballards and columns that kind of are all the way around the station. You know, it talks a little bit more about that neighborly feel and our relationship with that neighborhood. Here's Logan Square, interior. Again, just kind of what an amazing difference a little coat of paint does against the refreshed lighting already. Here's Thorndale. So again, you know, lots of painting here. You know, you can see the difference kind of on the head houses. You can see the difference on the columns, what an impact that kind of does in just the waiting experience. Next slide. And here's a couple more examples of the directional signage upgrades. So this is at Davis and Howard. Our next project is our Jackson Park Track and Structure Improvements project. Since we last talked, we've completed work between 59th and 61st, and we moved to the area between 61st and what we call 61st interlocking, which is 61st kind of south towards 63rd Street, as well as we continue to do structural renewals. Next slide, please. So here's some final replacement of what we call the wood guard. This is the long wood pieces that run on the exterior of the track edge here. And this was actually an area that was really problematic for us with the age of that wood car. It was prone to fires. Here is actually a rail replacement. So we replaced all this rail on this long track. We were using a crane from the adjacent alley to be able to load it and load it in and load it out. And here's, you actually can see some fall protection in place is one of our requirements of our SAFER program for that leading edge work with that rail. So next slide. Our South Shops waste material storage sewer upgrade project has been moving forward pretty strongly since we last met as well. We've completed all the wall stabilization work, which I've shown you lots of photos about over the last couple of months. The focus kind of in the last period was on the sewer that was tied into kind of the drainage system there. And now they've started moving towards the waste material storage building, which is the last leg of the project. Next slide, please. So here's that new sewer I was just mentioning. So this is right along 79th Street, that's 77th Street right there. And part of the settlement of the wall issue that I talked about kind of in the prior months was the sewer had collapsed. And so we were having some undermining of that wall. So we dug up the whole sidewalk area, replaced a new sewer with new catch basins. Next slide. Here's the new sidewalk we poured on top of it, and ultimately the downspouts that come from the gutter system into that sewer to kind of manage the water off the roof line and minimize any further impact on that wall. Dan Ryan inverters and batteries, again, another really productive month here as we've completed work at 59th, 63rd, 45th, and 79th, and we've moved on to 87th interlocking. This project is expected to clear up towards the end of this year. Some photos. Unlike kind of some of the prior ones I've showed you at 59th and 63rd, we moved into the elevated houses in the last month at 45th and 79th. What's kind of unique about here is we've actually had to modify the structure of those houses to isolate the inverters from the house themselves. So you're seeing actually some structural work here where they were creating in a new landing platform and ultimately installing equipment on it. Next slide. And then that platform actually comes down and makes connections at ground level to the third rail for those inverter connection feeds. And here they are doing the wiring up at that landing again. Next slide, please. Our northbound State and Dearborn project. So we've completed the work in the Red Line subway.
Hello? Yeah. They here.
Huh?
We've moved on to the Blue Line subway and completed our first weekend of work there and moved on to our second weekend. This work is mostly focused in the Blue Line subway up near Division Station and really the curves just north of there. Can I move the pictures, please? So here they are removing kind of the old plates and fasteners. So this area is prone to a lot of water incursion, predominantly due to the way it was originally constructed as a flat top cut and cover subway there. So we've had to replace kind of all the plates and then the clips that hold the rail in place, and a significant amount of the rail as part of this project. Next slide. Here you can see that rail being staged to be changed out. This is actually in the station at Division. Similar to what we saw in the Red Line, we're also doing some concrete spalling and a lot of water crack ejection. Next slide, please. And here they are installing the new plates and fasteners, and you can actually see kind of the amount of water just in the bed of the track there. And here is a new project we're introducing this month. This is our Irving Park Station escalator canopy replacement project. We will be installing 2 new escalators, one at the Irving Park entrance for Irving Park on the O'Hare branch and one at the Pulaski entrance. The escalator on the Pulaski entrance was severely damaged with water a couple years ago, and we had to actually take it out of service and put a stairwell in its place. And so this is ultimately an upgrade of those 2 escalators to modern units, as well as a new canopy, very similar to what we've done at Jefferson Park or Garfield with the translucent blue top to protect those. Here they are doing some exploratory survey work. You can see the stairwell I mentioned that is in place where the former escalator was at the Pulaski entrance for Irving Park. Next slide. And here they are starting to replace the canopy. So as part of this, they will take off the entire existing kind of clear bulb canopy and replace it with the translucent blue. They also will scrape down the entire structure there and give it a fresh coat of paint as part of the project. This is being performed by John Burns Construction and is part of our state rebuild program. Here's some more examples of the removal of the canopy panels. And they will begin painting in the upcoming months. Any questions for me?
Chairman Barkley?
No questions.
Director Irvine, any questions for Bill?
No questions, Bill. Just thanks for the update and thanks for all the work by you and your team.
Director Miller?
No questions.
Director Jakes?
No questions.
Director Silva?
No questions.
We have no further questions for Bill then, Chairman Barkley.
Thank you.
We'll now call on Chris, Michelle, and Juan Pablo Prieto to make their RPM and diversity presentations.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Chris Bouchel, your Chief RPM Officer. The RPM project continues on budget and tight to schedule. You can go to the next slide. Keep going. So we've got a lot of work going on the red-purple bypass. We continue to install various systems on the bypass itself. This includes traction, power, and signal. We are preparing that bypass for use in the late fall. In addition, we are going to be doing work on either end of the bypass. So as you have seen in earlier months, we basically built the bypass off to the side. That is nearing completion, and now we are in the process of planning to connect it in both the north and the south end. That connection work will involve a series of line cuts on the north side or on the brown line side to install some track work. And then on the south side, we've actually built the piece that's going to fit in off to the side. We will, over a extended reroute, actually do some demolition on the existing tracks and then literally move that new piece on the south end right into place. It will be a similar operation, or at least you'll see similar kind of movement that you saw in the Valtravers building when we moved that. So it is, a similar sort of construction technique, except in this case applied to bridges. On the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr side, we've had a lot of work that has been continuing up there. Most of it preparation for the large segmented box girder that's going to be installed. The gantry system, we'll see some photographs of that starting the assembly this past month, as well as various demolition and foundation activities. So if we could go to the next slide. So I talked a little bit about that southern end that's built off to the side and then slid in. Well, this is the slide in. So you can see them pouring the concrete for it. We're actually going to wait to do the track assembly until the piece is in place, just so we can get that perfect alignment with the existing tracks. But here you can see them putting the base slab on top of the new structure for the slide in. Next. And I talked about the work at the north end. That is in the area of Kenmore. So you can see them preparing the work on the new bypass. In this section, it's an open deck structure. Not closed deck as it is from most of the pictures you've seen. So as it kind of comes back in and attaches to the existing Ravenswood tracks, it is a similar type of structure as the Ravenswood tracks. So we're in the process of building the tracks in that area, and then we will, during a series of line cuts, connect it physically to the brown line as well. Next. Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment. A lot of heavy civil work here, demolition. I've talked about the earth retainage system. We're now complete with that. That is a system that was installed between the center of the two tracks out on this corridor, and that just enabled us to do the kind of heavy civil construction you see on the east side, while we continue to run service on the west. Next. Caisson installation. This is a steel cage that gets lowered down into the caisson hole that gets dug. These holes go down between 60 and 80 feet, in some cases to bedrock, where they get socketed into that bedrock. You can kind of see the size and complexity of this particular operation. Once that steel is lowered down in there, we pour concrete, and then that forms the basis of the foundation for the segmented box girder bridge to come. Next. This is a cap on top of one of the short columns that sit on top of that caisson. This is in the area where the gantry is to be installed. Next slide. And here you can see a picture of the gantry being assembled. So the gantry is assembled incrementally and then moved into place on top of the first two piers, one of which you saw at the slide before. That will facilitate the installation of the various segments. So this operation, that is the construction of the segmented box girder, is set to begin a little later this fall. But this is a very, very large piece of metal that forms the backbone of the gantry crane that will assemble the segmented box girder. Next. And of course, we've been busy in the community. We've been busy with various project updates for the awards that this project covers. We have been participating in various community events, trying to get people to sign up for alerts and otherwise be aware of the construction that's going on in the project and the impact that that has either to their adjacent community or to their ride in the morning. That's include various farmers markets. That's the season. That's been a great opportunity to get out there and spread the word. We also have been working with local businesses. In this case, one of the local saloons in the area of the Red Purple Bypass. Additionally, meeting with chambers and doing other sorts of various outreach. We did a public meeting the other day on the gantry for the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr segment, just kind of showing everyone what it's going to look like, what the impacts are. I think we had over 170 people participate in that virtual meeting, which was, I believe, a record for us. Overall went very well, and I think the community walked away with a lot of really good information. So with that, I'm going to come back to you at the end with a little video on our Open for Business campaign. But in the interim here, I want to turn it over to Juan Pablo to discuss the project's workforce SBDB efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, directors. Juan Pablo Prieto, Director of Diversity Programs. Diversity continues to meet with the contractor monthly to discuss DBE and workforce outreach and compliance. And we also continue to send out opportunities from the prime to the DBE community so they're aware of the trade packages and how to submit their bids. These packages also go out to our technical assistance agencies and our DBE advisory committee to make sure that they make their way to the DBE community. On September 24th, we attended a pre-apprenticeship event hosted by one of our workforce partners, the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. The event was hosted at the JLM Center and highlighted the avenues for individuals interested in a career in construction. The pre-apprenticeship program representatives discussed enrollment dates and barrier reduction services that would be beneficial for advancement into the union trades. There were 8 pre-apprenticeship programs represented and about 50 attendees. Diversity Programs Workforce Initiatives Senior Manager Brandy Phillips delivered remarks on CTA's commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion on the workforce on our projects. On September 28th, CTA and Walsh Floor hosted our first in-person event in over a year and a half to discuss opportunities on RPM. The event took place at the Broadway Armory, which is in the Lawrence to Bryn Mawr modernization footprint. Over 40 attendees heard from Walsh Floor, 2 of their subprimes, Meade and Hitachi, and our workforce partners, the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership and Hire 360, about upcoming contracting and workforce opportunities on the project. We also had multiple building trade unions that hosted tables to talk to DBE firms and individuals interested in a career in construction about their programs. Partnering with some of the SBE RPM communications contractors, we followed CDC guidelines to ensure we hosted a safe event, and we were excited to bring these opportunities to the community. As I presented in the last several months, we'll begin transitioning our RPM diversity presentation from outreach to compliance as the prime completes their subcontracting awards. As of September 30th, DBEs have been awarded over $169.5 million between the design and construction packages. Additionally, those dollars have been awarded to 71 unique DBE firms. This is a result of the outreach that has been conducted by CTA and the prime to ensure the DBE community is aware of opportunities on the project. One of the goals of RPM was to engage with DBE firms that had not participated on CTA projects in the past. Some of those firms are well established and some new to the industry. Of the 71 unique DBE firms in the project, 25 are new to CTA. Additionally, as of September 30th, RPM has produced over 486,000 labor hours. These represent family-sustaining middle-class jobs, which is why we continue to outreach to the community to ensure that residents of economically disadvantaged areas have the resources to access these careers. That concludes my portion of the report. I will now pass it back to Chris for the RPM Open for Business video. Thank you.
All right. So as one of the many things we're doing in our Open to Business campaign, we're creating a series of videos. We've done about 10 of them to date with an intent to do more. And we're using these videos on social media. We're using them at events with local chambers and otherwise in various efforts to make sure that our local businesses are promoted and that people are aware of them, that they're open for business, and some of the services they provide. So with that, I'll show you an example of one of those videos. They are pretty quick. The production value is modest, but the impact we hope is significant, particularly to these individual businesses. So go ahead and roll it, Herb, if you would.
Hi, my name is Tigistrada. I am in 4801 North Broadway, Demara Ethiopian Restaurant in Uptown. Closest station for us is the Lawrence Station. We've been in Uptown. This coming November will be 14 years. It was a restaurant that was closed for 2 years, so we thought what a great spot it is, being next to all the entertainments like Oregon, Green Meal, and the Riviera. That was a perfect location, and it just like the diversity of the neighborhood is awesome. So that's why we wanted to open up here. Our business brings like flavorful Ethiopian cuisine and diverse food, gluten, vegan friendly, and communal eating where friends and family meet. So we are Uptown staple. We've been since we opened, and we're grateful for our guests and everyone that supported us through the years. I think the mess-up platter, the combination or the family style where we can share from one plate, where everybody eats from one plate, a lot of birthday, family, friends. So I would say the mess-up platter where everyone shares one plate. I think our business brings good Ethiopian food, like good variety, in a place where people meet up, hang out with each other, family, friends, everyone. So like most of our customers say we want to dine once a week here, but it's so far for us that we come once a month. So just what we created in Uptown is creating in other neighborhoods as well. I decided to join the CTA's RPM Open for Business program because we want to let people know that we are here. We're still accessible. Come visit us, nothing changed. We know that many of our guests use CTA station, but also we want to inform that there are nearby station, which is Wilson Station. So that's why we want to do this, so people know that we're still accessible through public transportation. Once the CTA RPM Phase 1 construction is completed, I think it will be way better for our employees, guests to use and access, bring more people to the neighborhood through public transportation, visitors, anyone or people that live in other neighborhoods that want to dine in our area or go to entertainments, local entertainments. I think the CTA has been doing a great job in marketing us and communicating what's happening. And yes, helping the small businesses, saying we are open is an amazing thing. The station will be great once it's done, but come join us. Thank you.
All right, well, that concludes our RPM report, and thank you all very much.
Thank you both, Chris and Juan Pablo. Chairman Barkley, do you have any questions for either of our two presenters?
I do not.
All right. Director Irvine.
No questions, just great work, and thanks for sharing the video with us.
All right. Director Miller?
No question, just say thank you, good job, and thank you, Chris and Juan Pablo. And we were glad to host at JLM, the group, the opportunity, and we're getting still some activity and many compliments of the program that was hosted here at JLM. Thank you, and good morning all. I had informed, I gotta go.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Miller, for those nice reports. Director Jakes, do you have any comments?
Comment, yes. Chris and Juan Pablo, absolutely fabulous. Congratulations. Very impressive, as I stated yesterday to Juan Pablo. I want to make sure that that I brag on you for the work you're doing, because it really does mean a lot. And I think more Chicagoans need to know what's happening with CTA and DBE, because, you know, a piece of trash can get a conversation for an hour, but for the work that you're doing, doesn't get any conversation. So I'm just overwhelmed at the great work. Chris, I think that was unfair that you showed the restaurant with the food, as hungry as I am, but I'll just kind of let that slide. My question to you, Chris, is the slide in and the laying of the tracks. Is that going to be done before winter really sets in, or does it not matter whether it's cold outside or snowy?
Well, you're absolutely right. It does impact concrete work in particular, but honestly, we really don't have a season anymore in construction. All 4 seasons are construction seasons. We have techniques to keep the concrete at the right temperature, to keep it isolated. So we really can work through almost any season. That said, we anticipate the concrete for the slide-in being poured before the real cold winter, before the winter weather sets in. So that still will be fall, late fall work. So it's a good question, though. You know, I'll say in general, we work all through every season. You know, the tools we're working with are big enough to punch through the frozen ground and get to the ground, you know, the neutral temperatures underneath. So generally speaking, you know, we increase accountability for weather in the schedule, because there are sometimes actually when the CTA is busy clearing snow and doing other things, and so we can't work. But generally speaking, we just keep on going. It's a big ship, and we're endeavoring to do it, you know, on schedule and on budget, and as safely as we possibly can.
Thank you. No more questions, Greg.
Go right ahead.
No, I said that was it. Thank you.
Oh, no more questions. Okay, thank you. Director Silva, any questions?
Yes, I see the plan, okay, it has got a lot of potential, and I think, okay, that is going to go real well, okay, so I want to congratulate Chris and Juan Pablo, okay, for the good job, okay, they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Silva and all. Chairman Barkley, that concludes the questions for Chris and Juan Pablo.
Our next order of business is new business. Greg, is there any new business?
Not that I'm aware of, sir, no.
Since there's no further business to come before the board, may I have a motion to adjourn the Chicago Transit Board meeting of October 13th, 2021?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Director Irvine, and I think seconded by Director Jakes, I heard, because Director Miller has walked away. Correct? Correct. Jakes seconded that motion, so I'll now take a roll call vote on the adjournment. Director Silva.
No.
Director Silva, that's yes on adjourning? Yes. Director Jakes.
Yes.
Director Miller stepped aside, so Director Irvine.
Yes.
Chairman Barkley.
Yes.
That motion to adjourn is approved with 4 yes votes, sir. So we are adjourned. Thank you all.